Okay, so what it is, you were talking about, you saw a werewolf that had hair that was perfect, and he was looking for what?
I saw a werewolf in Soho walking in the rain.
Okay, he was in Soho walking in the rain looking for something.
You know the tune.
What was he looking for? It
He
evades
was
me.
looking for Cho Hao Fuchs.
For to get, why was he looking especially?
Walking in the rain after a plate of beef chow mein.
Beef chow mein, there we go. That's the thing. That's what reminded me. Okay, so as you know, formally in chess tournaments, you're not going to do any talking. It's absurd. There's no reason to talk at all. Saying check is allowed. Saying checkmate is allowed. Offering a draw is allowed. These are exceptional. You don't talk. You don't make conversation. Anything at all is suspect. It is harassment. It is detraction. It is distraction. It is being unfair. So in tournaments,
I take it talking in chess is acceptable.
It's outside of tournaments is where we make up for lost time. So banter at the coffee house, then it gets ridiculous. Then the poo talking flows freely. It's severe. It's abusive. It's friends. So I decided, why hold back? What is the ultimate you can harass somebody? That's right.
Is this between the chess players after the game, or?
No, during. Not after the game, during. You are particularly, you might be poo talking the opponent you're playing against, or
But you're not supposed to talk. So they're breaking the rules, or?
That's why I was clarifying that I'm talking about the contrast from tournament. Okay, in tournament there's no talking.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm trying to outline for you here is the contrast, coffee house chess.
Coffee house
You
chess.
practically make up for lost time by putting down a lot of incredibly rude banter. Nothing's off limits. It's the time and the place for the banter, because the situation's there. It's not. I'll give you a perfect example. It's called kibitzing. Kibitzing is a Yiddish term that means exactly what it sounds like. You're just a spectator there, theoretically not part of the thing, but you decide to inject yourself. Exactly what the word sounds like. Kibitz. Well, you got to come over and kibitz on this thing. Being a kibitzer. That's what you do. That's the accepted coffee house trade.
Puppy left some kibitz on my kitchen floor.
That's very, very good analogy for what it's like. That's the spirit of the thing, and practically the texture. So to be a kibitzer is very much what it sounds like. You get in there and just annoy to live and live to annoy. Like, because this kind of thing is allowed in coffee house chess, I saw a ridiculous situation where an unguarded queen simply could be captured. Well, it's only 8 by 8 squares. At some level it is in plain sight. We have a tendency to use clocks so that there's a double mechanism clock, so that you can limit the game to 1 minute for the total of moves for each player, or 3 minutes, or 5 minutes, or whatever you wish to do. And so we generally do these speed games, and it's going to allow for the sort of very loose, unforgivable visual mistake that you're not going to see happening in tournaments. And this is just one of those things. And kibitzers conventionally can see a lot more than the person who's right there under pressure. So as the kibitzer, when that player missed that free queen sitting there, then it was even in kibitzing there are sort of some rules, but not many. But this is one of them. I waited till after he missed that opportunity, and I said the queen was free. One player's queen simply could have moved sideways to capture the other player's queen. Well, that other queen also was unguarded. So after I said the queen was free, this next player said it still is, and he took that queen. Well, I caused a little bit of an adrenaline rush in the person who had made the prior mistake. They both were playing ridiculously because they both left their queens unguarded out there, both missed it. But the guy who had been subjected to me effectively interfering in the game, because that other player accepted the error, he had that moment of adrenaline rush. But it's only a game. Within a second and a half, he came to his senses and realized, it's only a game. But he was a little perturbed for the briefest of moments. So I wanted to be a gentleman about it. I recognize I kind of ruined that thing that was already ruined for him. So what could I do? I offered, should we step outside and roll up our sleeves and settle this like gentlemen?
Now you were playing him?
No, I was being the kibitzer.
Oh, okay.
But what I mean is there's that little moment of adrenaline. He was a little bit angry in the moment, even though there was nothing to be angry about. That's why, so I offered him that opportunity. I said, should we roll up our sleeves, step outside, and settle this like civilized gentlemen? That was what it took to get him to fully come back to his senses, realizing it's only a game. He said, nah, maybe next time. Anyway, the thing about what you're able to get away with outside of tournaments is it's going to be that level of discourse that makes up for lost time. So not only are you allowed to talk, but of course, obviously, you're going to choose the uncivilized end of the spectrum of talking. These are your friends. You're there to use the most abusive of terms and epithets and slander, and just take the King's English, run it through the gutter, slap it back up onto Jimmy the Greek's steering wheel, and watch him make a face, and just whatever you want to do. Well, my job at some point eventually became, how can I outrun the normal pace of this horrible banter? Where do I find the next step of extra horrible? Well, I thought about Steve Irwin, of course. Now, Steve Irwin's gig goes way back. There used to be this gentleman named Merlin Perkins, had a nature show where he'd go out and he would do the crocodile wrestling kind of thing. And it was a very original gig, like the Mark Trail comics. He'd just go out there and be with the animals. Oh, neato, an anaconda. Go pick it up and see how far he could swing it over his head or something.
Who was this?
His man's name is Merlin Perkins. He was a wild man.
Yeah, Wild Kingdom.
Eventually, he got to be like 90 years old and decided,
Perkins didn't do shit. He would send Jim in.
Here's where you stand corrected. Eventually, he turned 90 years old or something and decided, maybe I'll get an assistant to do the physical parts. That's where Jim comes in. Oh, Jim! Come on, Jim, let go of that steering wheel and come help me with... Jim, you look scared. What's the deal with your teeth? Are they, like, stuck together? So he got... I got tired of stabbing people in the face with a soldering iron, so now I just shoot them in the face with a soldering iron. So he got a cutting torch of some kind.
Well, I used to think that was hilarious about Perkins because he's like, it looks dangerous. We're gonna send Jim in there. Get in that water, Jim. Get in that pond, Jim.
This is a legitimate aspect to the show that Merlin Perkins wound up presenting. There's an entire generation that, of course, was only aware of the episodes where Merlin was the old professor laying down the narrative, and you would always see Jim, or Big Dummy as his parents preferred to call him. You just go in there. As I recall, it started with wow, he never did get those teeth to come apart. But so he got Jim, who had a permanent grimace on his face. I think it eventually did come apart. He was restored back to normal over the years. But he managed to pry his hands off the steering wheel and get him to come work as an assistant dealing with the animals. So it's stuff like when this fish came jumping out of the water and is going to spear somebody right in the chest. It's like, no, it didn't get Merlin. Professional courtesy. It got Jim. So what you would get is a slew of a warning, a whole paragraph of why you should never go near this particular kind of a box jellyfish or something. You see, if you look at it the wrong way, you're going to wind up sad you were ever born, and then it's going to go back 7 generations.
Now, who said this?
This is Merlin talking. Merlin would say, you really don't want to tangle with this kind of an orangutan once it gets upset, because it can generate up to 8,000 pounds of torque with its shoulder blade, and it can rip your own arm off and beat you with it hard enough for your head to go not only clean off your neck, but bounce off the next tree, land square back in your neck, and then he'll rip off your other arm. Now get this, because the opening, the entire paragraph was always like this, okay? And the last, like, he had this standard template of a closing line on this warning paragraph. It was always, but Jim's not afraid. He's going to demonstrate for us how you approach a crocodile. Okay, whatever's. So I'm trying to explain about chess banter, and I wanted to know, what is the next stripe of horrible? What's the next step in the world of horrible? How can I stretch the bell curve here and make chess banter truly horrifying? I was inspired by the world of Merlin Perkins and Steve Irwin, and I And it's your fault for reminding me about a big dish of beef chow mein and beef lo mein and things like that. By my calculations, the most horrifying thing you can do to a captive audience is to sing karaoke at them. But it's not that you have to depend entirely on having a bad karaoke voice. What you can do is simply render everything into the template of Elmer Fudd. And when I came up, I don't know, it's just the kind of thing that drifts down from the heavens. Chemtrails might be partly to blame, but definitely this struck from the heavens. I was inspired, and I think I might have had a really bad batch of liquid wrench that day, but I was in the spirit. And I mean, I don't know, you can't blame it all on the ganja, but I was in the spirit that day. And I figured out the most horrifying thing that anyone has ever done with coffee house chess banter. You sing to them like you're Elmer Fudd and just let it flow. The next song comes up in the queue, just go with it. And somehow I lined up the voice of Elmer Fudd with the search for beef chow mein. And this guy's trying to concentrate on the chess game, a speed chess game no less. Pressure is on, and I'm already winning because I was in the spirit. And you just picture it. Picture trying to get anything done where you've got to coordinate hand motion and keep your brain inside of your brain socket while somebody is singing to you. Oh wait, you got mutilated late last night. Werewolves of London again.
That is freaking genius. What was the original Werewolf of London singer? Zavon something or something Zavon? The artist, the original artist.
Well, originally that was sung and recorded by Warren Zavon.
Warren Zavon, yeah.
Yeah.
And Elmer Fudd doing Warren Zavon. That's genius.
Yeah.
His hair was perfect.
Well, they eventually did merge forces.
Did you usually get a chuckle out of the chess players?
Yeah, chuckles, vomit, restraining orders, all kinds of good stuff. When Warren Zavon wanted to take advantage of the hair was perfect concept, he would bring his jukebox with him. Now, this is where it gets embarrassing. Fortunately, he had this Chrysler the size of a whale. And he got tired of people asking him, "Hey, Grandpa, what do you mean jukebox money? What is that? What does that mean?" He got so tired of explaining it, he took his Chrysler that's the size of a whale and he just put the jukebox in there in the trunk next to the Pinto. So he could just show people. All he did do was open up the trunk and say, this is a jukebox. It's what we had a long time ago. Long time ago, like before MP3s? Yeah, something like that.
Steve Martin once said it's impossible to suck a Cadillac up your nose.
I no longer trust Steve Martin because of stuff like that. He gets a lot of stuff wrong.
So you did smoke ganja once or twice?
Well, no, I never did smoke ganja. It was
just in the spirit.
No, it was in the spirit. It was an episode involving cookies, and I thought, well, these gingerbread cookies are unusually good. I'll have another. Yeah, somebody was generous enough to only to put this platter cookies here, this platter cookies here, this platter cookies here. It was a whole thing. It was one of these pot skills. And the thing about pot skills is you're also going to have pot luck. It's never just one or the other. And I really liked the ones that tasted like gingerbread. I thought, okay, I recognize that's what that taste is. It wasn't. There was no gingerbread to them at all. Ganja has a very similar taste. And I filled up the way that one does when choosing to be a bit libertine on the dosage of cookies. For whatever reason, it's just the moment. I thought, oh, just at this moment, I'll have 3. Yeah, that was before I heard the warning from around the corner. Oh, go really light on those ganja cookies. They're extra potent.
And you were never a regular user.
Right. On top of this, I'm not a fan of marijuana.
So that must have been intense as hell.
I do not indulge in marijuana at all. So simply, you're talking about somebody unaccustomed getting 9 or 10 dose operative dose of ganja. So anyway, I heard later on that I taught a really good astronomy lesson. It's like, man, you were just going so into detail. Do you know what a smart motherfucker you are? It's like, no, I don't. I didn't get to hear the lecture. That's it. That's what I got to tell you about chess banter and astronomy.